Good morning. I want to welcome you to this beautiful Friday morning, Friday the 13th. What a great day that we have to be able to walk with God, to be able to talk with God, to be able to glean from His holy word. We're looking in the book of Jude. Today we're going to look at a passage, verses 11 through 16, and we're not going to be able to cover all of that this morning, and that's okay, but that's the passage we want to look at. Jude said, "Woe unto thee, for they have gone in the way of Cain, ran greedily after the error of Balaam for reward, perished in the gainsaying of Korah. These are spots in your feast of charity, when they feast with you, feeding themselves without fear. Clouds they are without water, carried about of winds, trees whose fruit wither, without fruit, twice dead, plucked up by the roots, raging waves of the sea, foaming out their own shame, wandering stars to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. And Enoch also, the seventh born from Abraham, prophesied of these, saying, Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000 of his saints, to execute judgment upon all, to convince all that are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds which they have ungodly committed, and all their hard speeches which ungodly sinners have spoken against him. These are murmurers, complainers, walking after their own lust. Their mouth speaketh great swelling words, having men's persons in admiration because of advantage." Now, before we try to start unpacking just a little bit of this, let's pray. Father, we thank you for the day that you have given us. Father, we thank you that we have the privilege to be able to come to you, share what's on our heart, knowing that you will incline your ear in the holy name of Christ. Amen. Now, this morning, as we look at some of the things that Jude has to tell us, uh, I was as I was pondering this, I thought about, at least one time in your life and mine, we've probably been deceived by someone. It could have been a salesman who failed to tell you all the problems with the car that you just bought. A commercial on the television that made you feel like you couldn't live without their product. A politician, maybe, who told you what you wanted to hear in order to get your vote. A teacher who twisted the facts, not wanting to buck the tide of popular opinion. Now, considering that the risk of being deceived is so great, is there anything that you or I could do to protect ourselves? Absolutely yes. You can determine in your heart that you will guard your heart and defend the truth. And as you become intimately aware of the characteristics of false teachers, you will be doing your part in defending the truth. At a time when so many are being led astray, will you take a stand and ask yourself, will you take a stand for God and His holy word? Now, as we unpack some of the things that Jude tells us this morning, he starts off here in this passage about they go by the way of Cain, that is unbelief. Now, Cain committed the first murder on earth. He killed his own brother Abel. We see this in Genesis chapter 4, the first 15 verses, we see this narrative. Why? Because Abel was a believer. Abel believed God, that he was to worship God exactly like God said, by the blood of an animal sacrifice. Cain did not accept such a belief. He felt that if he could brought the fruit of his own hands to God, then God would accept him because of his hard work. because he worshiped and gave offerings to God. Now, God accepted Abel's worship and offering, and it was evident in his life by the way that God blessed him and took care of him. But God rejected Cain's offering. God did not have a real sense, Cain didn't have a real sense of God's care or blessings upon his life. Therefore, he became jealous. And we see this, don't we? Jealous, envious of Abel. And so what did he do? He killed him. Now, a lot of people may not commit murder in the way Cain did, but they commit murder in many other ways. And all for the same reason, being jealous, being envious. Three things are being said here about a false teacher. False teachers, number one, he's saying here in this passage, they just don't they don't believe God. That a person has to worship God exactly like God says, by the blood of the Lamb of God. They do not accept Jesus as the perfect sacrifice for man's sins. Now, we know what they may say, but how they live, because they think that there's just some good in them, enough good, that they can do things by their own works. They believe, like Cain did, that they can become acceptable to God by the works of their own hands, by being good, doing good. Secondly, false teachers do not love like God says to love. God says that we must love one another in the love of Christ. What is the love of Christ, you might ask? It is a love that loves so much that it will sacrifice one's life for the other person, even if the other person is an enemy. Thirdly, he says false teachers shall be destroyed. Note the word woe. It means grief, anguish, distress. All false teachers shall be doomed to an eternity of grief and anguish and judgment. Now, it's important that we worship God just as he says. And be careful, because false teachers can do so much damage. Then he goes on to say they go after the way of Balaam. That is, they're going astray. Now, the false teacher has forsaken the right way and has gone astray. He has forsaken the way that leads to life, following the way that leads to death. Now, let us note something here, that Balaam is used as an example. The king of Moab, remember him? Balak began to fear the strength of Israel. So what did he do? He sent messengers to a diviner by the name of Balaam to come and put a curse upon Israel. Now, at first, and for a pretty good while, Balaam refused to go and discuss the matter with the king, but the king continued to offer more and more. And this is what Satan will do, what the world will do. They just offer more of itself. So he offered more wealth and position to Balaam. Finally, it got to be quite a bit. So the offer was so much that Balaam's heart just coveted what he was hearing. So he went after the world. Therefore, he agreed to go. He met with the king. However, along the way, God gave the power to speak to a donkey that Balaam was riding, and God rebuked Balaam through the donkey. Now, Balaam was also the person who was later to turn Israel away from God and lead them into sin. We see that in Numbers chapter 31. Now, the point of it is this: Balaam is an example of a false teacher who became worldly, led God's folks into sin, to destruction. All false teachers who deny the Lord Jesus Christ become worldly. They're seeking possessions, acceptance, security of the world, forsaking the right way and going astray. They lead people through, if not always through their words, but through their example, lead people into sin and destruction. Now, Jesus teaches us in the book of Matthew chapter 7, enter ye in at the strait gate, for wide is the gate, broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Then Jude says, they go after the way of Korah. That is rebellion. Now, Korah was the man who rebelled against the leadership of Moses and Aaron. We see this in Numbers chapter 16. Korah wanted a higher position. He wanted to be the big leader among the folks. He wanted to be the one to say, you know what? This is only going to be happen because of me, my leadership. Because I got all these folks telling me that we just can't function if I'm not the man. Therefore, he rebels against Moses and Aaron. He wanted to serve where he had no right to serve. As a result, he was judged and doomed, and there'll be a lot to be found in that way. Jude tells us about it. It was important then, it's important now. Now, the point of it is false teachers follow the way of rebellion, and they always reject the authority that God gives. They rebel against and reject the authority of God, the ministers of God that He has appointed and placed in His church. And most of all, they rebel and reject the supreme authority of Christ. They reject His deity, that He has purchased the church through His sacrificial death. They choose to go their own way, do their own thing. They use the church and believers for their own ends. We see this a lot in the local churches today. In the book of Acts, it said, "For the heart of this people is waxed gross. Their ears are dull of hearing. Eyes have they closed, lest they should see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their heart, and shall be converted, and I should heal them." Now, as you go through this Friday, by the way, it's Friday the 13th. As you go through this Friday, there's some things I want you to think about. Now, somewhere in our lives, we probably all have rebelled to some extent or the other. Maybe even coveted something we did not deserve. But why is it worse when it involves a teacher in the church? Now, it doesn't have to be a Sunday school teacher. We're talking about someone that is in a leadership role. That's what he means by teacher. Because the greatest teachers are those who teach by example, not by just words. So people are always more attentive to how we live than what we say, because that's what they're going to model. Not what we say, but what we do. Now, how can you be sure the motive of a teacher within a church? That his motive is not selfish and not self-serving. Those things are important. It's important to know about our own selves and those that are around us. So as you go through this Friday, ponder that. Ask God, say, Lord, show me how that I'm living and those that I'm following. Am I following someone that is a false teacher, that's not living the life? Talk a talk, but don't walk a walk. Lord, have your wonderful day. Bless our church, Lord. Bless all of our churches. And Father, I pray your will be done in our lives in the name of Christ. Amen.